Hello and welcome to Demian Allen's Astrology and Tarot channel. If you like the channel, please subscribe to it and press the like button for my videos on the coming months ahead. And for this one, we're looking at the month of May 2021, looking at the planetary aspects, the signs that are dominating, the elements that are dominating, and a little bit of tarot as well here. So let's start off with May the 1st, which is on the Saturday. And as you can see, we've got a stellium of planets in the sun sign of Taurus. Of course, the sun is passing through Taurus still at this particular point. So we've got Uranus, we've got the sun, we've got Venus, and we've got Mercury, all in the energy of Taurus. And that's a real focal point. We're in the second part of spring. You can see that in the Northern Hemisphere, lots of blossom is coming out, the aromas of the things that are growing. So this is a very, very nutritious, I think would be the word, month. It's a month when we really are working with the earth and getting a real kind of sense of stability that's around us from that agricultural point of view and through nature. So it's a very powerful time. And of course, in nature, the birds are perhaps young, are coming out and fledging. And so it's much more active. If you look in the woods or your garden, it's a very active period that we are looking at. So there's a strong connection with the earth, a strong connection with optimism, a strong energy of looking after oneself as well, being very aware of the body, the senses at this particular period in time. So it's a really nice time of year in the Northern Hemisphere. So if we look at May the 1st, immediately the sun has just separated from making a conjunction to Uranus, which of course is in Taurus. And that's always interesting because that'll be the Friday, which will be the end of April. That could be a little bit of an unpredictable day energetically. And then as the sun, separates from Uranus, we might get a little bit more space. But I imagine the previous Friday, that could be a little tricky. The 30th of April, actually, for a lot of people, particularly, if you're born with a lot of the fixed signs, Taurus, the Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius in your birth chart here. And of course, the sun is also applying a square to Saturn, which is in Aquarius. And these two planetary bodies, Saturn is typically about restriction. And the sun is the light that energizes and that we all sort of embody, and suddenly there's a little bit of restriction maybe within self-expression, or the feeling for many people that they cannot express themselves quite the way that they would like to because there's consequences. That's that very Saturn energy again. That's been building up for most of the week leading up to the 1st of May here as well. And I always get the sense there's a lot of, with these combinations, a lot of, especially when the sun is in Taurus, a lot of energy of sort of planning, planning forward, stuff to do with like property, interior design, or gardening, or building stuff as well. Building stuff for the future is quite powerful. We also have the moon in Capricorn on that day at 7 degrees early in the morning, so it's going to move for most of the weekend. That weekend of the 1st and the 2nd of May, it's going to be in Capricorn. The moon is not that comfortable in Capricorn, but again, it re-emphasizes that energy of building for the future, or building something for the future. And it's a dominance of earth signs, so we really are working with that element of earth, which is all about building, about being in the body, not getting too cerebral or ungrounded. I think is particularly strong, and that's a real antidote to, of course, the Neptune in Pisces that we've had for since 2011. you know, which has sort of created this smoke and mirrors that I often talk about, you know, in media and news and just in general, people's life and social media and stuff like that. So this is the sort of to get back to the more practical elements in life here. The other big news, of course, is and I talked about this in the last video, was Mars in Cancer. That is, Mars has been in a little bit of a strange condition for a long period of time, actually, and hasn't been able to fully function. And again, you know, it's in its fall in Cancer. So Mars is a little bit volatile in the energy of Cancer. So that Mars energy is not quite operating in the way that, you know, we would like it to. Mars is essentially about being self-assertive, about the ability to just get up and do stuff. But in Cancer, there's this kind of, well, actually, can we? It has to come from an emotional angle, and emotions can be unpredictable, and Mars can be unpredictable. So there's quite a volatile kind of aspect to this. And you might see this within political movements. You might see this in emotions getting out of hand, or people being aggressive, or public figures being aggressive, you know, feeling that they're attacked or being attacked. This is the kind of nature of Mars in Cancer. It's a difficult combination. The zodiac sign of Cancer and the planet of Mars they can't really function. They find it really difficult. So again, it's emphasizing that Mars energy that is not quite functioning. Okay, you know, in about 5 to 6 weeks, when it goes into Leo, it has a bit of stability to it. Mars can finally do something, which it hasn't been able to do for some time. You know, so that's difficult. And on this day, you've got, on May the 1st, you've got the moon separating from opposing Mars as well. So again, that Friday the 30th, I do feel is a bit of a unpredictable day. You know, so I'm recording this on the Thursday, the 29th of April. So, you know, tomorrow is going to be the Friday, but yeah, it's going to be a bit of an unpredictable day. Okay. And this is basically the second decan of the Sun in Taurus, from, you know, May the 1st to the 10th. And the tarot card that's associated with this time is the Six of Pentacles. So if you're born between the 1st and the 10th of May, then this is your card. And the Six of Pentacles is a lot about, again, the emphasis of building for the future and being generous with it, the ability to spread what you've built and what you've produced. So individuals with this in the chart, or the Sun in Taurus at that time of year, can be people that can build for the future. But they can't keep it themselves. They have to allow other people to benefit from it. So it's a quite a generous card, the Six of Pentacles, but it's also very earthy, and it wants to be able to have something as tangible that can be built for the future, that's going to last as well. You know, so it's a very idealistic card to do with the practical nature of all things tangible and material. So you get the picture there. Okay, let's start to sort of just move forward a bit and see where we kind of get to, and some interesting days. So I'm going to move to the 8th of May, and already we can see quite a lot of changes coming on. Particularly as we see that Jupiter in Aquarius is at critical degree at 29 degrees 19 minutes. So it's about to enter into Pisces for the first time in 12 years. That's really kind of significant. I always feel like critical degree, the 29 degree, is a mark of a planet that's done everything that it needs to do. And so you get a kind of magnified version during that time, and it's at 29 degrees, of that that sign that Jupiter is, or any planet is traveling through. In this case, of course, Jupiter in Aquarius. So, you know, humanitarian aspects, idealism, social progressive movements, the ability for equality, but also a separateness and individuality that takes one from the collective rather too much, or extreme views as well. So we might begin to see that play out collectively an awful lot. And, you know, it is also just squaring, it's just separated from squaring Venus at that particular day on the 8th. So that's quite a self-indulgent combination for us all to deal with. Again, Jupiter magnifies everything it touches. It makes things bigger, good or bad or whatever. But it, you know, it does, and with it being in Aquarius, remember Aquarius is a fixed sign, so Jupiter can't quite do what it would like to. It can't. It can be idealistic, but it can't actually make things totally happen. So again, similar to Mars, Jupiter previous to Aquarius, particularly for 2020, was in Capricorn, and again couldn't do anything. It was in its fall. And Aquarius, again, it's better than Capricorn, but again, the emphasis is that it cannot do what it would like. You know, it can't be as idealistic and as venturous as it would like. Saturn still at 13 degrees in Aquarius. Still, I've talked about this ongoing square between Uranus and Saturn that is still occurring. The sun is now separating from being in that square, although it is still a square by 3 degrees. Big news is we've got Mercury now in Gemini, and just looking ahead at that Mercury in Gemini, because right at the end of the month, it will go retrograde around about 28th, 29th. So, but it is in Gemini. Mercury can do stuff in Gemini. It's in its rulership. It can operate. So things speed up, communication speed up. Things start to begin to happen a lot more. You know, and it's approaching a conjunction with the North Node in Gemini. So, you know, things can happen. This is when things speed up. It's been previously in Taurus, which is very, very slow moving Mercury in Taurus, you know, and very deliberate and considerate and looking at all of the options and then moving forward. Suddenly we've got it in Gemini, and it's a completely different beast. It's faster. It's the butterfly of the zodiac. Things move very, very quickly in terms of communication, in terms of emails, in terms of job offers, in terms of money being transferred, ideas, stuff like that. It's busy, very, very busy. So things start to speed up. For some of us, it might feel like, oh, it's just too much, can't deal with that. For a few of us, it might be like, oh, this is really invigorating. I like this. Things are finally moving forward. An awful lot, which is good. Now, we can also see that the moon is in Aries on that day, so it's approaching a new moon at in Taurus. So let's just go towards that section. So it's, see if we can get it exact. Yeah. Okay. So it'll be the May the 11th really. It'll be about 21 degrees. We can see here the new moon in Taurus, and that's an interesting combination. The moon is of course exalted in Taurus, and again, the emphasis on what are we building for the future? What plans do we need to put in place is really kind of significant at this time. It's a really powerful symbolism that's going on with that. It's a lovely new moon to celebrate, and you know, to work with energetically. Really, really nice. Okay, let's look at an interesting combination is Mars. Mars is making a quincunx aspect with Saturn the next couple of days leading up to the 12th to 13th, 14th. And I think that's really kind of interesting because quincunxes are always the tense, they're uncomfortable, but are not enough to disrupt. But it's enough to kind of, annoy and get on people's nerves. This kind of energy that's battling with the limitations that are imposed. Obviously, here in the UK, we're leading up to the 17th, which will be kind of when a lot more things open and the next stage of coming out lockdown comes in. So just leading up to that, it would seem like people just getting really kind of sick and tired of the energy. It feels very much, that, oh God, we just gotta, we just want this all to go kind of energy, just that feeling, so a little bit tense around that time. And I think it comes in with a tarot card, which is associated from the 10th to 20th of May, and the third decan of Taurus, which is the Seven of Pentacles. It's a kind of a sense of, there's a little bit of sort of disillusionment about this card. It's kind of, right, okay, this is what I've got, and now I want to kind of move forward and do things really kind of differently. And this is the sort of the energy that's going on. It's like, not quite what comes next. We sort of built, and now we're going, what comes next? So sometimes a little bit of boredom, when this card comes up in a tarot reading, the person is always perhaps looking ahead to what other job they could do, what other career change could they do. I've built this, but I actually want to kind of go and do something a bit different. I'm a bit disillusioned. I'm not quite, this is not satisfying me, and I often say this card is reflected in the moment, the money that one gets, not quite enough, wanting a bit more and stuff like that. And if you look at it with the planets at the moment, this period of time, it's that kind of, okay, is this what we've got? Do we want a bit more? And of course, leading up. So let's have a look at that 17th, because that's a kind of a big day in the UK. So let's have a look. Well, I mean, the immediate thing is, and it's around about the sort of 14th, is that Jupiter goes into Pisces. And this is quite a combination, because it's a very warm combination, and if we're talking about social distancing, and we're talking about all what you've been through, and Mars, this is when the boundaries start to really kind of, so things start to open up again. People can mix, things start to sort of move. People can be indoors in pubs and restaurants, and suddenly people are gonna go, what, these boundaries, these structures, these limited, no, it's a very human interaction. Jupiter in Pisces, it's very warm. It wants to hug, it wants to love, it wants to really embrace humanity. So I think this is when boundaries are going to go a little bit funny. And I often associate a lot of Piscean energy, particularly with alcohol and drinking and and having a good time. So I think that the boundaries are going to go a little bit haywire at this time. It's a nice optimism. It's a lovely combination, but it is going to go a bit funny. And of course, the other significant feature is we've got now we've got Venus in Gemini. Again, re-emphasizing that social aspect. People really want to be very, very social, be with people here. The most interesting, though, I feel from an astrological point of view, is the moon. I mean, this is at like 6 a.m. So luckily, again, I'm just wondering, because the moon is opposing Pluto, just wondering on the 16th, is there a bit of an ooh and an ah in about going for the next stage of reducing lockdown, because that moon opposing Pluto can be a little bit intense, and again, if you look at that quincunx I was talking about between Mars and Saturn, okay, it's just separated by 1 degree. So again, that build up, I think it's going to be a little bit on the heavy front. That's sort of taking place. And also we got Mercury applying a square to Neptune as well. So there's all kinds of different views and viewpoints to this thing. Again, it's nothing that's, to me, that's that suggests that it's all clear. And although I think from the public's point of view, I think they'll be very happy, but I think that there'll be a lot of kind of, again, smoke and mirrors, the communication. I think, oh my God, are we going to do this? This could end up like this or that. A lot of that going on. So, you have to be a little bit sort of careful at this time in what's portrayed in media, what's coming out, particularly, because of that Mercury square with Neptune. It's always a tricky kind of time. As we go through the day, that moon is going to separate from opposing Pluto. So I think that's more energy for the 16th as a key date, for people. I would imagine, I mean, the elements that we're working with at this time is a strong amount of water, lack of fire, more water. It's very emotional. It's very, even though the sun is still in Taurus at 26 degrees, it's very much that kind of, there's a strong element of water. So yeah, but the Jupiter in Pisces, first time in 12 years. So I mean, I think also travel will be, again, boundaries or restrictions put down at that time. We're really kind of talked about. I think those restrictions are going to come back in by the end of July, because that's when Jupiter goes back into Aquarius, putting up limitations, and then Saturn kind of holds, Jupiter to account a bit. So I think that, great for the summer holidays, but long distance travel particularly, I think is going to go back into restrictions by the end of July, for particularly August, I would say. Okay, so let's move forward. So that's the 17th, and let's just go into the sort of the last sort of decan, when it's the first decan of the sun goes into Gemini, which is around about the 21st. This is the 22nd, so we see there's the sun in Gemini. So the last stage of spring that comes into effect, and that's that's a kind of very significant here. Everything speeds up, everything becomes a lot more busy, everything becomes a lot more social. As I said, we've got a Jupiter in Pisces weaving its magic there, and immediately you've got a square with the sun and Jupiter as well, so it's quite heady. It's optimistic. Again, the boundaries not coming in, and of course now we got the stellium of planets in Gemini. Real shift here, real energetic shift that is taking place at this time. And the card that I'm associated this time is the 8 of Swords here, and the first decan of Gemini. Really kind of important, because we may feel that there's only one way to look at this situation. There's only one view, but actually we need to be a little bit more intuitive about this, and a little bit more step back and be a bit more objective about the situation that we currently find ourselves in, and not get into a placement where we feel trapped, or there was only one way we can do this. So adaptability of the Gemini needs to really come in, and not to overthink it here at this particular point. We're starting to go into the shadow period of Mercury retrograde as well at this particular point. So this is a very sort of powerful time that's taking place, as we go into the last stages of May. So we have to be very aware of that at this particular time that's beginning to take place here. And we're into the last quarter of the moon. And here's the big news that I think we're approaching, it's 9 degrees out, but we're approaching Mars opposing Pluto. So yeah, we've got some heavy stuff coming our way here. But I think that the Jupiter in Pisces will kind of knock out that for the moment at this particular stage, and people will be like, "Oh, it's all going to be absolutely fine," but actually, we're just going to go a little bit ahead here. Okay, so Mercury is not quite gone retrograde, but it's definitely in the shadow period. It's definitely, you know, it's slowing down. You can see that this is the day of the full moon, May the 26th, as the moon is in Sagittarius, opposing the sun in Gemini. That's an interesting, because it's a mutable full moon. A lot of people find that particular full moon quite difficult, because they're swapping and changing their mind so much, and it always brings up a restlessness, you know, a need to change things. So I always think with clients around that time, particularly if they've got sensitive planets in, you know, Gemini or Sagittarius, that they feel like, oh, I just want to change, I want to do this. It's like they're one of them making really big decisions, and actually, you know, you've got to be kind of, that will pass. You know, with the mutable energy, you've always got to kind of think it will pass, because you're more likely to change your mind later on. So you've got to be kind of really kind of careful at that. We can also see that Jupiter's now gone to 1 degree. It sort of stays around that time. If I, you know, it doesn't go, it goes to 2 degrees, then goes backwards. So it just enters, it gives us a little treat of Jupiter and Pisces, and it, you know, it passes quite quickly in early 2022, where it goes back into that sign. So it gives us a little bit of a I suppose, what's the words I'm looking for? Insight into what 2022, early 2022 is going to be like. Okay, and we see that Mars is 19 degrees, so it's getting closer to opposing. We've got Venus at 21 degrees in Gemini, which is squaring by 1 degree that Neptune. So again, that's quite, again, self-indulgent. It's let's all have a good time. I also think a lot of this is about transport, you know, short distance traveling as well as long distance traveling this time. A lot to do with that. And I always think with the emphasis on Gemini, a lot to do with lungs or problems with lungs, which comes back to COVID. I'm just wondering if there is insight that comes about the lungs and the connection with COVID at that particular time as well, that comes through. Still, Uranus is now at 12 degrees, 1 degree squaring with Saturn. As I say, that's the big aspect for the year, the template of the tradition meets the rebel in the sky, and that's quite a revolutionary undertones that's taking place generally here. Okay, so let's just go a little bit forward to take us right to the end of the month. So Mercury is retrograde. It's gone retrograde at 24 degrees in Gemini. So if you've got planets at 24 degrees in the signs of Gemini, Virgo, Pisces and Sagittarius, then you're going to feel that Mercury retrograde really strongly. Or if you're in a Mercury perfected year, obviously that's going to re-emphasize and make that kind of strong. There is conjunction with Venus at that particular day. This is May the 30th. It's going on, and we end with that intenseness of the Mars opposing Pluto here. I say that Pluto is the ruler of collective viruses, and I think Mars has a real contributor to that, definitely, as well, in terms of viruses. So I'm just wondering if there's a spike that comes back in at this time that needs kind of controlling, because of that Mars re-emphasizing the Pluto at that time, and that's going to come in for the early June, which may mean in the UK that June the 21st might not quite materialize, or it might be slowing down at that particular period. Because the sun switches from Taurus to Gemini, it's a switch of elements from the earth to the air, a switch of pace. And I think that's really kind of very, very strong switch for us all. And then we are coming into the last stages of spring here. But that energy that is very much unpredictable and has not been able to sort of create our own visions to be able to go, right, okay, what are we doing? I think is still going to be around, although there's going to be a lot of optimism, a lot of social activity, a lot of reconnecting, particularly on around from the 14th onwards of May, when Jupiter goes into Pisces. I think that's a big kind of thing, and a kind of a boost to a lot for charities and stuff like that as well at that particular time. Anyway, I hope that's you've enjoyed that. As I say, do press the subscribe button, press the like button, and I will see you on the next recording, which will be for the month of June. So until then, enjoy your May.